In this video, we will connect the client-side application with the server-side application. Let's get started. At first, we need to enable development environments for both the client-side and the server-side. I am using different terminal windows to do that. Let's navigate to the client-side and server-side projects locations. Let's start the server-side server. Once the server started, our server-side application should start working. Now, let's start the client-side application. At the moment, the client side and the server side are not connected, and for example, if I press register, not much happens. Let's fix that. Open the client side within a code editor and go to loginwindow.py. Here we need to edit the go to register page function. Delete the print call and add webbrowser.open. And within the brackets, we need to write the URL of our register page. Also, let's not forget to add required web browser import for it to work. Save changes and let's check how it works. Run the client side once again. Now, if I press register, the register page is open within the browser. Before we work on the login button, we first need to add one more endpoint to our server-side application. Open the server side within a code editor and within urls.py add this code. Here we are using built-in Django authentication token endpoint. We will call it from the client side in order to authenticate the login attempt and get authentication token that we will use to distinguish different users. Also, we need to add required imports. Save changes. Now, let's go back to the client side. Here we need to add few required imports. Then, within the init method, we will create a new pop-up box. Also, we will set the window title of this box to failed. We will use it to display status of the login attempt. Now we need to define a new method called login. Here we will try to call the authentication endpoint that we have recently added to our server side. In the request, we're adding the URL to call, username and password from the client side's login form. After that, we get response converted to a JSON format for easier access. Then, within the if statement, we check if the response code is OK, which is equal to 200. If it is OK, then we go to the settings window and pass the token that we have received from the API. If we do not get the 200 response code, we will display a pop-up with a text that the username or password is not correct. At the end, we need to add exception catching in case the server side is unavailable to handle the call to the authentication endpoint. In this case, we will display a pop-up with the unable to access server error. Now we need to update the login button clicked connection to the login method instead going straight to the settings window. Save it and let's see how it works. Run the client-side application again. Here, if you do not provide username and password, we get a pop-up that states that they are incorrect. Same happens if we provide random username and password. Now, if we provide correct credentials, we get unable to access server. We are getting it not because the server side is not running, but because the open settings window function does not handle the provided token yet. Modify it to accept token variable and pass it to the settings window class. Save changes. Now let's modify the settings window.py file. Here we need to accept the token. Also, let's assign it to a variable. Also, as we did before, we need to create a pop-up window that we will use to display when something is wrong. The default text is that fields must not be empty. Now we need to modify goToDetection method. Here we are adding a check if the fields are empty. If they are, it will display the pop-up window with default text, which is fields must not be empty. If fields are not empty, the logic stays as we had before. The only difference is that we are passing to the createDetection instance function token, location, and send two inputs. Save changes and let's see how it works. I will start the server side again. Here, if you do not provide info in the fields, we get the pop-up. If you do provide the required information and press Start Monitoring, we get an error. In the terminal, we can see that createDetection instance function at the moment accepts only one argument, and we are providing 4. Let's modify this function. Open detection window.py file and add token, location, and receiver variables. Also, let's pass them to the detection class. Save changes and let's edit the detection class. Before that, let's add required import. Now, within the init method, we need to add missing variables. Also, we need to assign them to the class variables so that we could use them in other methods outside the init method. Now, let's scroll down and add a new method called postDetection. Here we will try to send a post request to the server-side API /images endpoint. We will provide authorization header with the user token, detected image, and user ID, location, and alert receiver. In the user ID field, we are providing user token. If the request succeeded, alert was sent to the server will be printed within the terminal. If it did not succeed, unable to send alert to the server will be printed instead. If there will be any other exception, unable to access server will be printed. Now we need to call this method from the save detection. Save changes and let's see how it works. The detection window opens now, and if I show a weapon, it gets detected and sent to the server-side application. Let's send a couple of detections. Now let's check the server side. I will log in with the same account that I used within the client side. Here we can see previous alerts that were sent via the postman, and if I scroll down, we can see detection from the client side with all the info that we have provided there. In this video, we have successfully connected the client-side application with the server-side application. Now we are able to log in with credentials created on the server side, and detections are sent there as well. In the next and last video of this weapon detection series, we will deploy our server-side application to a server so it could be accessed via the internet. Also, we will connect email and SMS sending services so that when a detection happens, an alert will be sent to the email or phone number. See you on the other side. Bye.